very happy, very excited today uh, to welcome you all for this civil research seminar series. And I'm very happy to welcome my own teacher, my own guru, Professor Ashish Pandey, for this seminar. Many of us we know each other, but still I could see some more people have joined. So let me introduce Professor Ashish Pandey in brief. Dr. Ashish Pandey is a professor at Shailesh Mehta School of Management, IIT Bombay. He's also visiting faculty at IIM Ahmedabad. His teaching expertise includes organization development, human resource management, self-management, and leadership. Uh, his illustrious career has been actually involved in delivering more than 100 consulting and long-term training projects uh, around organizational and leadership development across various industries. In scholarly research, Professor Pandey has made significant contributions in the areas like mindfulness, spirituality at workplace, yoga, and positive psychology. His interest also extends to studying the business society interface, shared leadership, as well as responsible leadership. Professor Pandey has published over 50 research articles in top reputed international journals like Journal of Management, Journal of Business Ethics, and Personal Review. These publications highlight the profound uh, theory development and engagement in these areas. Apart from this, Professor Pandey has played a key role in leadership development processes. He has conducted numerous in-house leadership development programs. His development work with business organizations, government agencies are guided by collaboration, self-awareness, and creativity, innovation, these kind of broader areas. He employs various innovative methods in his pedagogy, like appreciative inquiry, open space method, and so on. So we are very happy to welcome Professor Ashish for this seminar. Today he will be talking about humanist management, the role of practical wisdom and responsible leadership. We are looking forward to hear to you, sir. The format of this seminar would be we will have around 30 to 45 minutes presentation, his seminar, followed by open Q&A forum where we will exchange ideas, questions, and so on. So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you, Professor Ashish, for joining us here. And over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks very much, Ajinkya, for for your work in the center, and thanks very much, Professor Surya, for leading this center so well and giving me opportunity to interact in this field. And thanks to all of you, many of you, I have had opportunity to interact earlier, for joining and to be part of this conversation, to be part of this discussion. This is something which I have been working off late. So I thought this is the best opportunity to kind of share with the colleagues and get the feedback. And if any of you are interested to take forward this work, Professor Rajan, please consider us your friend and kind of collaborator, fellow travelers, to work on this in this area. So as it is mentioned in the brochure and mentioned by Ajinkya, that this is some discussion about the humanistic management, role of practical wisdom and responsible leadership. And we will see how Indian management, an Indian concept, Indian perspective can enrich this conversation. I am deliberately not using indigenous Bharatiya word here because English is also as Bharatiya. If we go by the number of people use the medium of the communication here in this country, number one. And number two, my commitment to Indian wisdom or Bharatiya Pragya Parampara, Gyan Parampara, is guided by one advice given by a very senior editor of a journal. He says that how can that is okay, and that is totally understandable that you are passionate about Indian ideas. But others, your passion will translate into others' interest only if it carry forward the conversation which is going on currently in the field. So it is perfectly fine that if that you are, so the two things have to go simultaneously. Number one, your dissatisfaction, and a lot of scholarship is actually not only result of dissatisfaction, it is actually the result of an angst against what the conversation going on currently. That is one part. But only angst is not the knowledge creation. It is at best a genuine emotion. If the conversation, if the Indian wisdom can take forward the conversation and can help in changing that conversation, then it is of interest to the general audience. And general audience include most of the Western scholars, because that's where the most of the research is also happening, at least in terms of the number of papers being published. And a lot of Indian scholars as well, because they have to, at least at a very mundane level, publish in the journals which are published from the international forums, mostly located in the Western countries, and they have to progress in their career. And I think how the knowledge has been growing is like many tributaries and sub-rivers keep merging with each other, and then they reach to the ocean. And that is the metaphor I keep in mind in the knowledge creation. So I would like to kind of compare the worth of the ideas in their own terms, not in terms of whether they are originated from Bible or Aristotle or Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad or Quran or Guru Granth Sahib. So, though I am committed to the Indian wisdom in my work, but this has been kind of a boundary condition I have been following. And this has helped me to sharpen my argument, to sharpen my understanding, and to pinpoint what I wish to convey to those colleagues who are not part of this culture. So first we will look at some of the, what is the humanistic, how the humanistic management kind of originated, and we'll see how humanistic management and Indian worldview fall parallel. And one of my propositions is that if we have to move towards more humanistic management, then responsible leadership is the instrument, because it is ultimately human being who will take charge of any system and take the system forward. When I was doing my PhD work, I was more interested to work at the collective level. And that's why the spiritual climate was the topic of my work, and collective consciousness was another area where I tried to do something, wrote few things. But now at this stage, I'm relearning that for any system to go up, we have to rely on, and it is the real the source of the transformation is the individual consciousness. A source of the consciousness is the individual leadership. Vyakti ki का नेतृत्व चाहिए for any system to go up. So that's why my interest grew of late, and I found responsible leadership is one construct which captures the essence of that wherewithal, which can manage the paradoxes and can help to move the system to the next level. Because if you look at in the social systems or in the corporate world, we can see a lot of equilibrium which are actually harmful, which are not humane, and still they are equilibrium. Means pure water is not available, so private companies are making water bottles, and investment is not happening to provide the enough investment is not happening, and the, enough work is not happening to provide the pure drinking water. And this is a kind of a equilibrium. Somebody has to break this equilibrium, and that is true in the corporate world as well. Some equilibrium sets in. You are producing something which you know is not good for health, know which is harmful. The process it is produced through the process which is harmful to the natural and social environment. While working in this organization, people might not be attaining the well-being, but actually they are their wellness is compromised. And this is a kind of accepted wisdom. This is a kind of accepted situation. So this looks like an equilibrium, but it is dysfunctional equilibrium because it is having some externalities which are making life difficult, and they are a result of the compromise on the human dignity. And that's why leadership is important. And then we will look at how the spiritual foundation of responsible leadership, how responsible leadership need to have spiritual foundations to break some of these taken for granted equilibrium and move forward the system towards more wellness. And when we say wellness, it is always collective wellness. It is always holistic wellness, because my wellness has a very limited value, and I will not be able to experience the wellness until this wellness is connected for all. And then we will look at some practices and some aspect of management education for responsible leadership. So if you look at the very basic assumption on which most of the business systems operate, we come across certain things which are kind of given wisdom, or what we say, it's like, okay, this is how things are. They have almost like a ontological assertions in the field of business management. Number one is limited resources. Resources are limited. All external resources are limited. And this has been the source of theorizing and understanding the different kind of social activities in the economics as well. And I think that is one of the basic assumptions in the economics, and which has come directly from economics to management. Since the resources are limited, external competition is bound to happen. So everybody has to compete for the resources. That is also a kind of a given wisdom. The resources are limited. People have to be entrepreneurial to generate resources for themselves and for the people around them. In that process, it is very legitimate that they generate more resources for themselves because of the virtue of they taking risk in this process. So if resources are limited, and if I have to hone my skills and expertise in extracting the most value from the available resources. So the available available resource is the planet, and my smartness lies in how much I can draw from the planet, and it is how can I extract, how I can extract more smartly, or how efficiently I can do that, and that becomes the next obvious outcome of my pursuit. So most of the scientific development or technological development are about how well we can extract the resources which are otherwise limited. In this journey, individual rationality is the instrument, because it is individuals, those who take risk, they are rewarded. They have to be rewarded because that is connected to the economic activities. The prosperity is connected to the individual risk taking, and risk taking has to be rewarded. And there is a rationality, and the rationality is related to the cause and effect. And if I have a clear kind of objective, I need to identify what are the reasons why I'm not achieving those objectives, and addressing one by one those things, hoping that someday I will be able to kind of fulfill my objectives, and come over from and kind of surpass those, address those causes because of which I am not able to extract, I am not able to draw the maximum value. So profit maximization is a valid goal, because until I create surplus for myself or for the firm, there's no way I can grow. And it is perfectly all right to grow to the level of global scale. In fact, that is most advisable, that is most aspirational thing, that my product is available to the whole, it is used by everybody in this planet, and that is my smartness, and that is my that is perfectly fine, and that becomes the criteria of my success. So naturally the profit maximization has to happen, because until I have surplus, I will not have resources to invest, and until I invest, I'm not able to reach out to the largest number of people, and reaching out to the largest number of people and reaching penetrating deepest to the lives on this planet is the criteria for success. So profit maximization is really fine, and it can go on. So I'll keep creating technologies, methods, sometimes required recycling some of the output to create growth constantly. Like the oil well, at some point of time, it was understood that oil extraction cannot go beyond certain point of time to some extent, and the resources will be exhausted. Not exactly the exhausted, but the current technology, with the current technology, will not be able to extract oil beyond a limit. And in last 50, 80 years, that limit has been challenged and surpassed. Means we are keep creating technologies which are making extraction more and more efficient, and that timeline which we used to hear few decades ago, till when, after which the petroleum will not be available, that timeline has increased. So this is just one example, and there are like so many examples where we assume that we can keep growing, and we can keep generating ways of economic growth. So these are some of the basic assumptions in my understanding about the business, and which has been informing, which are the basis of business and business education. And humanistic management is an invitation to look at some of the alternative assumptions. So humanistic management also talks about limited resources. It also says that we have limited resources. But instead of competition, and this is where the convergence of humanistic management and Indian wisdom occurs. If resources are limited, either I choose external competition as a way of life, and I keep competing and I keep building my capacity and building my muscle for competition. I become more and more smart in that competition and outsmart others, and then this game will go on. That's where the Indian wisdom says that instead of external competition, limit your wants. Aparigraha. And aparigraha is a common value in Hinduism, in all schools of Hinduism and Jainism and Buddhism. And Trishna is the cause of suffering. And Trishna means nothing but limitless desires. So the same situation, a different conclusion is drawn, and that is appreciated in the humanistic management. And this is very much there in the Indian tradition, that you have to limit the wants. And winning over nature, instead of winning over nature, that becomes my pursuit. My focus is more on being with Mother Nature. You don't compete with Mother. You are nourished by Mother, and then you take care of Mother. So the relationship between the planet and human being can be of two different kinds. One is Mother Nature is provider and you are extractor, and as an extractor you become efficient and someday you win over nature. But if I consider nature as mother, then the nourishment and care, instead of extraction and winning, becomes my mode of interacting in the world. And that creates a very different kind of relationship between me and this planet. As a result of that, I will not look at planet and everything on this planet as a resource, but I see everything as a system of which I am also a part of it. So one of the basic assumptions about the humanistic management is that human and see the amazing thing that when we look at everything as a resource and I have to extract and I have to win over that, a point came, and probably we did not realize that, but at some point of time, we started seeing human being as well as the resource. And that's a real spiritual crisis. Because if human being is the resource, what is the objective? If the objective is not the human being, if it is the resource, then what is the objective? And that becomes, and that makes business outcome as the ultimate objective. For what? Why it is important to consider human being as the end in itself? Because in an ecosystem, instead of resource, because in an ecosystem, a simple principle is that the someone who is sitting at the top of the ecosystem, when it is taken care of, then the rest of the system is also naturally taken care of. And most of the Indians are present in this session, you might remember in 70s, Project Tiger was started in India. That was the time when the number of tigers fell drastically, and there had to be something seriously to be done about the tigers. And it started in 71, and then it was given a lot of attention in the mid 80s, and as a result of that, the tigers were really saved. And that time, this question used to be asked: why you call Project Tiger? Why not Project Deer or Project Bear? Or aren't they important? And that was the time this logic was presented eloquently, that if you take care of the tiger, you have to take care of the deers. If you have to take care of the deers, you have to take care of the grassland. If you have to take care of the grassland, if you have to take care of the water bodies. So start from the peak of the pyramid, then you have to take care of the different layers of the pyramid. So from that sense, human being is the end of management, not the resource for the management. So the wellness and well-being, the human dignity is the objective in this process. And my wellness, and the moment I say my wellness, the wellness of dignity of the human being, it is inextricably linked with wellness of all. So after yoga practices, most of us recite this very famous shlok: Sarve vai sukhina santu, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukh mat bhavet, loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. It is not a motherhood statement. It is not a nice thing to say. It is a very, very sensible thing to say. And I'm deliberately not calling it a logical thing to say, but it's a sensible thing to say. We have been rational and logical at many situations, but we short of being sensible. The logic generally operates in one direction. But when I say sensible, the senses operate at least in 5 directions. We can be logical, but insensible at the same time. So what is the instrument for this? The instrument for operating in this paradigm is not rationality. I am a part of the technical institute, and no way I can undermine the value of rationality. But we cannot overvalue the rationality as well, because rationality can operate in both the ways. You can use your logic for the functional, holistic, and very individualistic purposes. And that is the source of the logic. The Ajink and Dr. Chandwani and I wrote this paper on how mindfulness enhances moral reasoning. That is the core logic. We might be logically correct, we might be legally correct, but still we might be wrong in the context of the planet. So only rationality is not going to work. What is needed is pragya, wisdom. And pragya is not result of logic and counter logic. The pragya is result of that which emanates from the settled mind. So it is not only brain storming, but brain stilling, which is mind stilling, and brain stilling is more important, because from there the deeper logic comes. Professor Rajan Gupta always say that that teaching is a microcosm or an opportunity for new knowledge creation. Because so it is not very correct to look at teaching and research as two different activities. or kind of in uh, not in incoherent activities. Teaching and research, uh, teaching and learning are the opportunity for the knowledge creation, and you get different layers of insights in the teaching process. And this kind of insight occurred to me last week. What is the difference between individual rationality and pragya? Earlier, I used to say this, but last week, while in a session in IIM Ahmedabad uh, with Dr. Rajesh Chandwani, we are offering a session on unleashing individual and organizational potential with POS, Positive Organization Scholarship, and Yoga. And as a part of this course, we were discussing appreciative inquiry. Appreciative inquiry is those who are not familiar to the process. Typically the consultancy work, development work starts with what is the problem and how I can address that problem. How can I solve that problem? And I keep finding problem in the system, and I keep finding the solution of it, hoping that someday system will be smooth and functioning well, and we will have lesser problems or no problems. Instead of operating from that, we can actually look at what is giving life to any system. System might not have certain perfections which you hope to see, but if it is not there, then also there must be something wonderful happening. That's why that system exists. So you do not start with what is not working well. You start with what is working fine. What is giving life to the system. So instead of approaching organization as problems to be solved, but miracles to be embraced, we start looking at what are the miraculous things happening in that system. And when we were doing this practice of that, and it starts with discovery phase. So we look at the discovery phase. Okay, what is giving well? What is giving life to any system? And then we looked at the IME as an institution. The first surprise to us was that students were finding it really difficult to find what are the wonderful things and most joyful thing in IIM Ahmedabad. So that was, for an outsider, this was unimaginable. And then with some cajoling and with some instigation, most of the factors which came were not about learning process, but those are about the sports activity and some outdoor activities. And when they went for the external exchange program, those were the things came out of the like 30 odd students. All these things came. And then we didn't talk about what is the problem. Okay, what is bugging you? Appreciating the classrooms means you have the best of the best faculty available, and the people spend their lifetime to prepare their course and prepare their research and to teach you, and then it is not at all featuring in the best experience. So we didn't. There's no point in talking about that, because that is anyway not desirable in the appreciating inquiry. So we move to the next stage. That was the dream phase. Okay, so if all these things, when you felt energized, and then they gave some adjective, I felt energetic, I felt happily competing or collaborating and being accountable for the group, and all these positive things were stated in the context of non-classroom activities, then we move to the next step. What is the dream? If this has to be the part of the course process, what is your dream? How do you see in 10 years all these positive things which you have counted, which you have identified, if they are there in the as a way of life in IIM Ahmedabad, how this will go on, how it is looking like? And then people wrote all wonderful things: holistic education, joyful process, the relaxed atmosphere, no pressure for fitting into certain aspect of the performance, giving opportunity for self-growth. One group said that my dream is that IIM becomes a place where people discover their true self, and anyone in the industry CEOs, whenever they wish to rediscover their self and to rediscover the identity of the organization, they are coming to IIM Ahmedabad. So these are the kind of things came up without talking about the problems and fixing those. One student asked that, sir, what is connecting discovery and dream? It is correlational or causational? And the answer was that it is neither correlational or causational. It is emergent process. It is non-rational because anything could come. I could ask anything and some altogether different thing could have come up. So we also did the strength test, the 24 strength test given in the authentic happiness work of Seligman and his team. We could ask another question, that when did you feel loved? When did you feel compassion? They would have taken some time, but I'm sure in 2 years they would have felt loved. They would have felt care. They would have felt compassion. They would have felt courage. They would have felt wisdom. And had we started with that question, very different kind of dreams would have come. So it's an emergent process. It is not a rational process. So we need to be present to the emergent reality, not in a hurry to connect my desirable objective, which is business desirable objective, with the process. We can legitimize everything and still screw up the planet. The great debacles and the scandals have happened in a very legitimate way, which is pretty rational process. So what we need to move on from rationality to pragya, the practical wisdom, which is being sensible, not only rational. And in place of profit maximization, humanistic management talks about wellness maximization. Ultimately, it is wellness to be maximized. And in the Indian wisdom, we never talk profit directly. We always add shubh labh. Before labh, we have to use shubh, and shubh meaning auspicious, welfare. So instead of profit maximization, the objective is, the alternate objective can be wellness maximization. Limitless growth is a very humane urge. The only problem is that we seek that limitlessness in the growth in the external situations, in the external world. External world in the form of market share, or in the form of material wealth, or in the form of number of pairs of shoes I can own, or the number of dresses I can have, or the penthouse, biggest penthouse I can. I seek limitless growth outside, but the physical reality cannot be limitless. And Sadhguru put it very beautifully. He says that seeking limitlessness is a very humane pursuit, because a reality of which we are expression. That's why individual is called Vyakti in the Indian tradition. Vyakti means expressed. It is expression of what? It is expression of the infinite integral consciousness. That is called Vyakti. It is not individual, which is indivisible unit. So since we are expression of that which is infinite integral, constantly throwing new patterns. It is very human, but then it cannot be expressed externally. So not chasing limitless growth, but limitless consciousness, experiencing that limitlessness in the consciousness, that can be the ultimate object. And why people go for contemplative practices, why we go for samadhi or meditation or any form of prayer, because for few seconds we experience that limitlessness. For few seconds we connect ourselves from the larger existence. The whole research in this spirituality and management, which is based on the meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose, the way it is defined, is very cognitive in nature. Cognition is also the way it is understood, cognition, rationality, memory, attention. This is also not sufficient to experience that limitless consciousness, but still it gives some comfort, some wellness, because in the meaning and purpose, we are expanding our awareness. We are still not experiencing the expanded integral consciousness, but we are expanding the awareness. We are connecting this individual life with the larger world. And that is one of the basic tenets of the humanistic management, which is about drive, the drive for finding place in the larger scheme of things. So all these wonderful ideas which are there in the Indian wisdom as well, and enlightening generations after generations, are to great extent beautifully captured in the humanistic management. It says that human beings are not seeking to maximize the utility. They actually optimize on the desires, optimize on the drives. What are the drives? Drives is drive to acquire. I want to acquire salary, perks. These are like matter of acquisition. Drive to protect, drive to belong, and drive to seek place in the larger scheme of things. And when we are making the business decisions, human dignity is the threshold, not the profit maximization, because anyway human beings are not utility maximizers. So protection of dignity, and dignity is not the individual dignity. It is not only about the human being. It is about everybody. It is about all manifestations of the world. That becomes the objective. And in that process, practical wisdom is the tool for that. And the ultimate outcome of this is well-being. So that is the model which is kind of beautifully captures that which is Indian wisdom as well. And maybe I think I should stop here and then ask for your reflections.
Thank you, Professor. Forum is open for questions and exchange of ideas. Ashish sir, if you would like to look at some of the comments in the chats, because a couple of participants have shared their thoughts there.
Yeah, the Chandrika madam is there. So yes, Professor Chandrika, this is what is working for the system as an inquiry point before figuring out the mistakes. That's true. And a lot of creation can actually happen by looking at what is working fine. And in that process, we have seen it like few dozen times now in last 15 years that what is bothering you is taken care of. But if you only take care of what is bothering you, you miss out on the bigger possibilities. And appreciative inquiry helps that in traversing that path.
Yes, Banajit has raised hand. Yes, Banajit.
Yeah. Sir, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really very much many things that I came to know for the first time and looking at things from a different point of view. But sir, my question is that in business school, when students enter and the way they screen the institutes, it is what I have observed is that there is a tendency of profit maximization in the students. They go for the institutes which are offering highest package. So during so their attitude to the education system is that so the college should provide them a salaried package, and that is their sole objective for most of the students. So it is very difficult if the students attitude is that, and they are definitely this practical wisdom and caring for like mother nature, so these things is not so much there. So it's a mismatch between how to go about it, because it's not only what we deliver, it has to also come from the student side. So yeah, so what is your take on that? Yeah.
So I think not that we all were students at some point of time, and most of us did MBA, and many of us were bothered about the package. But at some point in our life, we are awakening to these things. So not that students will always remain unaware of this. If you look at, for example, they did some connect with the 25-year-old batch in Ahmedabad about some consulting firm, consulting work, consulting assignment and consulting jobs. And the placement team members said to me that those who started in the consulting job 25 years ago, most of them are not in the consulting job. Most of them are working in some NGOs or having their own NGOs. They're working in the social space. So not that student will remain always unaware of this. So this wisdom occurs. It is us teachers who have to awaken for this. Are we convinced about it?
Yeah.
As a school, if we are convinced, then I can find the middle ground. And then all of us have to take forward these thoughts wherever we are. But ultimately, the choice is between whether I should do what is difficult or die. So if that choice, which at least ensure that life remains, the human being remain on the planet, it is less difficult than dying. So that's one. That is more rhetorical answer, but then while I was presenting about while I was thinking about this topics for last 1 month, actually I was thinking about two topics. One talk I have to give next month in the mindfulness conference in IIM Bodh Gaya. It's a valedictory talk, and they asked me for the topic, and I said that mindful individual to mindful organization to mindful society. Then this humanistic management, responsible leadership as a tool for this. While I was preparing for these two, I came across one very recent article. I think it is still it is in press in Academy of Management Review, humanistic organizing and humanistic organizing role of mindfulness. It is written by co-authored by Town and Christopher Rina, Michael Pearson, and one more author. There are 4 authors. They have suggested 3 things. Number 1, developing a language. Number 2, finding the process. And number 3, enacting on those. They have different words for this. Textualization, making part of the conversation, and then enactment. So we need to find, I think the first is thanks to this article, I also got an opening. What is next? So the next, as this article suggests, and it makes sense to me, at first we need to find the right vocabulary, or develop new vocabulary, and then those vocabulary will become the basis of our conversations, and our conversations actually get translated into the processes and systems, and those processes have to be enacted, and our tracking system and our inspiration system both have to gear up for that. So the developing language, conversing in that language so that processing system can be developed, and enactment, that's the path. Few organizations are able to do that. I personally looked at Arvind Eye Care. They are doing it. I teach a course in which we use this another eye care in Hyderabad company, and they are doing it. To some degree, I have seen it in the Pyramid group, and to some degree, I've seen these things happening in some, at least in the Tata Chemicals. I have done some basic work over there. So many organizations, the social entrepreneurship space inspired by these ideas. And if you look at some of the MSMEs, if you just go to the Aim to Flourish website, there are at least 2,000 organizations which are social entrepreneur, which are not causing problem to the planet, but they are conducting business while solving some of the challenges of our time related to environmental degradation, inequality, meaninglessness. So there are organizations like this. So we need to develop language, we need to develop methods and enact on that.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. Professor David had raised hand, so David, you would like to?
Yep, thank you, Ajinkya. One suggestion in terms of finding a way to talk about this, which comes from the ancient Greeks, is virtue friendship, and it's a way of building relationships between people built on respecting the sort of higher morality and ethicality of the people around you. So that I'm quite interested in how that can be used as a basic framework for beginning to think about, well, what are the processes of creating collective or group wisdom? But and that's just a comment. But I guess I have a question though, which is underneath, all the things that you spoke about today is a very deep and complex metaphysics about the nature of consciousness, the nature of reality, the nature of value, and all of those sorts of things. And I think that metaphysical language is also part of the vocabulary that you're talking about. But I guess I'm wondering what your thoughts are about how you can talk about metaphysics and what kind of vocabulary you can use to speak about it in very technically oriented business schools like you work in and I've worked in. So yeah, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that sort of thing.
Yeah, thanks for asking this so pertinent practical question. I have two answers to it. One is the academic answer based on the literature, and one is my personal effort. The academic answer is, I'll again recommend this article, which is recently come. It is still in press. Humanistic Organizing, Academy of Management Review by Town and colleague. They have given two case studies, and these are not huge organizations. They're like 300, 400 people working in this organization. So it makes brownie. It's a bakery company, and they have given very good examples how they have changed the language. For example, they use the process of hiring called open hiring. Open hiring meaning you apply to this company, and irrespective of, without looking at the CV and all, whenever the next opportunity comes, first number one in the list will be called for the employment. And they say that we don't employ people to make bakery, we do bakery to give work to the people. Like these, this is one kind of, and so many terms, different ways of expressing the relationship. And by the way, in the POS generator, Robert Quinn and colleague, they have mentioned 100 odd practices about POS, and they mentioned one organization where whenever somebody has to talk about the levels in the organization, they say don't call it hierarchy, call it lowerarchy. And the concept which they promote in their organization is service servant leadership. So more responsible you are, you have to be more service oriented. So it's a lowerarchy, not hierarchy. So these are this is an example I take from the text from the secondary source. What has kind of made me to stay in the business and not being thrown out and not being asked to stop teaching, at least, is the practice, contemplative practice. So in the very first 2-3 classes, we do practice, and when people experience relaxation, they get a glimpse of oneness, they get a glimpse of serenity. That makes my job really, really easy to talk about these things. So I think the answer lies in the whole spectrum. We need to find the processes, we need to include the processes which is beyond rationality, which is beyond cognition. Mindfulness is one of that, and we have done some work on the mindfulness and responsible leadership. And the finding the language. This is the work of Sadhana Sargam, recently published in the Cross Cultural and Strategic Management. She looked at responsible leadership and how it is enacted, and she looked at the role of mindfulness in realizing some values of responsible leadership. And how it works is by looking beyond paradoxes. For example, being energetic and being agitated, we consider these are the synonyms. Being calm and energized, it looks paradoxical, it sounds paradoxical. But if I have done some practice, half an hour practice, I will know when somebody is saying energized and calm. In the art of living, fold, there is a software company as well. So Art of Living Foundation is a spiritual organization led by Shri Ravi Shankarji. They teach Sudarshan Kriya and yogic practices. They have projects in the de-addiction, prison reforms, agriculture, natural agriculture, and whole host of the socially relevant projects. One of their project is actually a business organization, a software company. And in the software company, they talk about serene dynamism. Now, someone who has practiced Sudarshan Kriya can understand what is serene dynamism. When you are dynamic, still there is a serenity within. So the language and practices, I think both we need to develop, we need to work upon, and then the reality will start emerging. From there, the reality, social reality will emerge.
Thank you, sir, for the elaborate answer. Anybody would like to share thoughts or ask questions? Forum is open.
Okay, hello Ashish sir.
Namaste. How are you?
I'm good. So it was really nice to hear you, and I was actually working on spiritual leadership and responsibility. Dignity, workplace dignity. So I think that I'm benefited. The way you spoke about, especially the rationality thing. You clarified it in a better way. Now I'm able to connect the whole thing. Like we are much more focused upon rationality, and then we are talking about creating a workplace which is more human, more dignified. It is not possible. So we need to look into this. And it was a very, very, I would say, insightful and helpful session for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm glad to note that. And we can actually use different methods for our students to look at reality not only in a rational way. Of course, we need to be rational, and I'm not inviting anybody to be irrational, but looking at the emergent nature of reality as well. So one method is mind mapping. So if we are able to instigate, and if we are able to inspire and make people realize the value of mind mapping, and if they do it sincerely, they can see the emergent nature of reality,
Right.
which is the hallmark of the living systems.
Right, right.
And there can be multiple starting points.
Hmm.
There can be multiple endpoints. All that to comprehend well, I think a mind map can be very useful.
So can you give any example of it? Like how we can practice that in the class?
So you ask, okay, a role of business leader in a society. So in the mind map, you don't start from one corner and write down one by one. You start from the center. You write down the role of the center. And then you ask, okay, what are the different facets of life the business leaders create impact? what are the positive and not functional and dysfunctional facets of life, functional and dysfunctional facets of impact, and then how they are connected, and then use analogies for this, and then invite students to use alternate analogies. And keep, so this is a different way of learning, different way of thinking. It will take some time, and if something which is being habituated for 15 years, 20 years, it will take beyond 2 minutes, but it will take much lesser than 20 years to relearn a new way of thinking, particularly which is more sensible.
Correct. All right.
And after a point, our rationality start helping us in making sense of it. The problem is there. प्रॉब्लम तब तक है जब तक माइंड हमारा मालिक बना हुआ है. एक बार उसको उसकी स्थिति बताना जरूरी है कि तुम रथ को चलाने वाले हो, तुम रथ के मालिक नहीं हो. कठोपनिषद का जो शैरिटियर की एनालॉजी है, इंटेलेक्ट जो है वो रथ को चला, जिसके हाथ में रीन जरूर है पर वो रथ का मालिक नहीं है. मालिक तो मैं ही हूं. एक बार उसको, जिसको हम हिंदी में कहते हैं ना औकात दिखाना, तो उस रैशनैलिटी की औकात दिखाना आवश्यक है, तो वो उस दिशा में चलेगा जो धर्म संगत है.
Right, which is the true nature of the self.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
Professor Surya has some.
Yes, thank you, Ashish. Very pertinent and provoking at the same time, especially when you go and see some organization. So you have spoken about how you are bringing through some practices for students in management, let's say institution or whatever, this kind of, let's say, glimpses of shifting to another way of looking at things. So I was curious about when you have conversation with CEOs or chairmen of boards and so on, and who have some kind of opening, and otherwise they will not speak with you or me or Jinkia and David and so on. So they have a small opening, but how do you then go to the creating the space where there is a conversation with the new language, because it implies that there is really a shift in the whole perspective and way of thinking as well, right? The words that you use reflect how you think and your world perspective. So how do you do that practically? I'm just curious about that, actually. Yeah.
So this is actually of course, all is the grace of the gurus who have kind of worked very hard with me to be a better scholar and better human being. So all credit to them. Sometimes taking their name also helps. Not sometime, all the time. But in terms of the activity, when we look at the preparation is not only at the level of mind. It's for a message about holistic development. Method also has to be holistic. So if we integrate the cognition, emotion, and senses, then the preparation starts. Then the preparation happens. Then there is an opening. Then there is then there is a kind of readiness to, and of course the all other required things. You have to build the trust and kind of coming from the space of a discoverer rather than giving the answers to your questions. All these what we call the client-centered therapy principles that is there. But when we adopt this holistic thing, what has worked really for me is this body-mind practices and asking some pertinent question. So the choice of question is very, very important. And that opens up the different layers of reflection.
Thank you. So anybody has something to ask? Okay, okay. Great. So it was wonderful seminar and followed by a very insightful discussion, more like Vichar Manthan, where we were churning thoughts and ideas and way ahead. So I would like to express gratitude to Professor Ashish Pandey and all the participants who joined us. And I'm very happy to see that people have joined across country, outside countries. So happy to have this kind of gathering. And I'm looking forward that we will keep meeting like this and we will keep exchanging ideas in future. And that is the purpose of this research seminar series, where we meet once a month and share some ideas with each other and share or collaborate for research in future. So once again, thank you so much, Professor Ashish Pandey. Thank you so much, all the participants. And I extend invitation for the next seminar. Please keep checking your mails and you will receive the notification for the next seminar soon. And I'm looking forward to welcome you all again for the next seminar. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Namaste.